Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Qualified Podcast. With me today is Parker Smith with his business, MadTown Maids. Parker, thank you so much for joining me today, sharing your story, and giving an insight into your business.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I appreciate the invite and the opportunity to come on here. I've been using Booking Koala now for 6 months just about, and have loved it, and been following you and the team on social media. And when you reached out, I was like, absolutely, let's do it.
Awesome. Give us a little background on yourself. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'm actually from Chicago. Not from the downtown area. I'm from the southwest suburbs, kind of like Naperville area. I grew up in a suburb called Downers Grove. Went there high school, middle school, elementary school. Traveled a lot for soccer. I was a soccer player growing up, and then eventually went to school. Went to Northern Illinois for college for 2 years before dropping out, going to play professional soccer. I was a pro athlete for a year, and then ended up settling now where I currently am in Madison, Wisconsin.
When you were younger, did you know you wanted to be in business, or was your dream always to be a pro soccer player?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a two-sided dream, I guess I would say. I always wanted to be a pro soccer player. It was like truly since as far back as I could remember. It was make the high school team and become the starter on varsity, and then get the college scholarship. And then when I got to college, it was, being a starter on my college team. And then it was getting to the pro level. And, there was always the moving target with soccer, but always the ultimate goal was to go pro. But then somewhere I would say around the middle of high school, probably like 15, 16 years old, I really, interestingly enough, it just started as a love for money and a love for working. And the thing was, like, I had simple jobs like delivering food and stuff like that, and like getting paid, not even to go spend the money, but just to have the money was like such a good feeling. And then I was like, I want to find ways to make more money, but I had to be kind of crafty because I was always so busy with school and soccer. And that was kind of what forced me down the entrepreneurial path of like, you got to figure out some type of side hustle. You got to figure out some type of gig you can do to make some money while not having to go, punch a clock and work a normal job, because I simply didn't have the time for it. So I would say both, but soccer was lifelong. Entrepreneurship kind of came on, like I said, middle of high school.
With soccer, if you don't want to kind of go into it, what made you kind of not continue going pro after that
Yeah.
1 year?
Yeah. Honestly, it was kind of forced upon me. I actually, little side tangent story here, a story I love telling, so I'm not going to skip the opportunity to tell it. But I dropped out of college 2.5 years in. I was running my second business at that point. My business was doing well enough to support me, to keep me alive. And I got a call from a professional team, and they said, we're looking for a second goalkeeper. I play goalkeeper. They're like, we're looking for a second goalkeeper. We've heard you've been considering leaving school to potentially try to go pro. And I said yes. And they said, okay, you can come on trial here if you want to. And I dropped out of school the next day and packed all my stuff up into a suitcase and went down to go to trial there. Was on trial living in a hotel for 6 weeks, and then they cut me and they said, you're not good enough. Sorry, you don't have the chops to make it, at least not with this team. And I looked at the coach in the locker room and said, I don't have anywhere else to go, so I'll see you tomorrow. And I showed up again the next day to train, regardless of the fact that they had cut me, and the next day and the next day, and did that for about 2 more weeks. And then they offered me a contract and they said, we want you. You've got something that we need on the team. And I ended up getting signed and getting to play. And that was my first pro season. and I sat the bench, was a backup the whole season. Eventually, just through some hard work and a bad run of form with the starter, was able to start, debut, win, get man of the match, my first and only professional game. We then 2 days later signed a goalkeeper from a higher division, and he came in and immediately took the starting spot from me, and I was back on the bench. And towards the end of the season, I really hurt my knee, and off season came, and I was like, do I want to do this every year for the next 5 years and battle the being unhealthy and losing my whole off season trying to get healthy again? Or do I want to, deal with being a backup and training your whole life away 9 months out of the year just to do rehab the whole off season and repeat? And I eventually was just like, I've got other things in my life that I care about more than soccer. My family, my fiance, my business was on even terms with soccer at that point, and I was just like, just ready for a change. So I decided to part ways with it.
Completely understandable, especially when injuries come into play. It's really tough and tricky. So at least you got to experience it and have a match and have that story to
Yeah,
take with you forever.
absolutely.
With business in your life, is anybody in your family a business owner that you kind of modeled after?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, there's only one real business owner in my family, one of my uncles, and he's very, very successful. Actually, you might think of him in a negative light now that I tell you this, but he is the creator and the owner of the red light camera technology. So he actually owns and is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep, his company, of every single red light camera in the state of Illinois. So anytime you've ever gotten a red light ticket, it's indirectly come from him. And he started that business, I want to say 25 years ago, a long time ago, and grassroots it, rose money. I don't know what the right word for that would be.
Raised?
Raised money, yeah, from just friends and family, and started with, let's call it $100,000 to go buy the patents and the technology and stuff that he needed, and started the business. And now it's a huge thing, and they've got school bus cameras now, and they've got cameras in 18 different states, and it's a ginormous company in operation, and he just kind of passively owns it now. But when I was growing up, it wasn't a super successful thing, and so he never really talked about it. Like, I come from a family and a group of people that were just high W-2 income earners, and he was kind of making less than them for most of my childhood because he was bootstrapping a business. And so he never really talked about it, never really talked about work. I didn't really know much about what he did. And now that I'm an adult, I understand what he built and how successful it is. It's super impressive. But growing up, never really was like, oh, I want to be like my uncle. We just never even talked about it.
I got slight beef with him then. I got a ticket or two in my day, but that's okay. I mean, it's a business, right?
Yeah.
So it's something that has clearly done well for him. Because I mean, the government uses it, so it's whenever you could get a contract like that, it's huge,
Yeah.
right? So did he ever? I guess once you started to realize how successful he got when he got to that point, like in high school, maybe before your first business idea, did you kind of touch base with him and pick his brain a little bit on things?
Yeah, honestly, I wish I had more of. I wish I had done more of that research and conversation and outreach to him. I didn't have like a super close relationship with him, so I don't know if maybe I just didn't feel comfortable doing it, or maybe I felt like at that point he had been almost too big to help me with small idea things, small world stuff. But I think now as an adult or a self-proclaimed adult, there's a lot of things I would love to ask him about, especially I would just say on the operations side of things, because his company, they have like 100 employees or something like that. It's a large operation, and that has been the biggest thing that I have struggled is probably the wrong word, but I've had some hiccups with is managing people and managing teams and dealing with personnel from an operational standpoint. So probably something I should reach out to him a little bit more than I have, at least thus far.
Going towards the first business that you started, when was that and what was that?
Yeah. So I would say that the very first business that I ever started was a clothing brand. It was in high school. It was basically just trying to sell to my buddies and people that I knew and try to create some type of like ripple effect there of, hey, if everyone that's cool in high school is wearing this, then other people will want to wear it, and we did okay. I think we ended up netting out profitably, but eventually just like we had to keep selling to the same people, and it was just an exhausting process. We decided it wasn't the right thing to do anymore. Eventually then moved into a reselling company where we were buying Supreme and Jordans and Bape and all this hyped up clothing and shoes and reselling. Similar thing. We did pretty well, but never grew enough to the point where we weren't like scrapping for every sale and every customer, and it just became exhausting. And those were both in high school. And then my first actually successful business, I would say, came in college. And that was when I started to dabble into the consulting world and kind of just started to sell myself as the commodity in the business world and selling the bit of expertise that I had, particularly in the blockchain world, because I have been an early investor in Ethereum and in Bitcoin. And people started to create coins, and the NFT craze came around, and that got crazy, and people wanted to come into the industry because they knew there was money there, but they didn't know anything about it. They didn't even know the first thing about blockchain or how any of it worked or tokenization. And so they would come to find people like me to help actually explain it to them, create a roadmap for their business. And then, I'd leave it to them to actually go and execute on it. But that was my first real business. And it just became me just selling my time essentially.
Very cool. With MadTown Maids now, when did you start exactly?
Yeah, so this actually came, I would say, beginning of November of 2023 now. So just about 6 months, just about 6 months was when I really took the jump. I ended up kind of closing shop on my consulting business after a while when the hype and the craze around the world of Web3 and NFTs and crypto and all that kind of died off for a while. And got burned pretty bad by some bad actors, and ultimately realized like I didn't actually own a business. I was just like a really well paid independent contractor. Like, it wasn't really like a business because I couldn't take a day off. I couldn't delegate any tasks. I couldn't automate anything. It was just time. Like I was just working 15, 16-hour days every day because that was when I was making money, was when I was working. And it just wasn't healthy. It wasn't right for me. So I eventually moved away from it, went to Europe with my lovely fiance, got engaged. We spent the whole summer traveling, and just, it was right after she graduated from college. So we had some money and some time after I closed up shop, and was like, okay, I'm just going to go enjoy life for a while. Came back. That was end of the summer. Dabbled around with a couple more agency type ideas, and then end of October, beginning of November, I actually started seeing people posting about home service businesses. And particularly the idea of a remote home service business interested me because that's been my bread and butter. Is I can sit at my desk from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day and just work, and that's no problem to me. So that was really when I really started learning about it. Eventually I got hooked up with a couple mentors, and they were like, hey, this is kind of the avenue. This is the way you want to go if you want to start a home service business. And that was my real day one was November 6th.
November 6th.
Yep.
Was that your first booking, or when you kind of just put everything together and was like, I bought the website and this is my day one?
Yeah, not even. That was like filed the LLC, let's start a business. And then it was about 2 weeks until we were like operational. Like November 20th was our first booking. And then, so that's kind of, I guess, when the business actually originated.
And how much did you have saved up, or how much did you want to initially invest into MadTown, and how much did you invest?
Yeah. I knew just from experience that it's really hard to start a business for less than like $5,000 is kind of the threshold that even just having $5,000 in liquidity, I think is important to be able to spend if you need to. And that was kind of the ballpark I had mentally prepared myself for. Now, I really actually started MadTown Maids for like less than $500 all in, which was crazy. But I also paid about $2,600 for the mentorship that I received to actually get everything going, and people to say, hey, use this CRM, use this payment processor. This is what you're kind of going to want to build your structure around. And this is how you're going to legally onboard and protect your business. And this is how so, I paid for some coaching and some direction on that front. So I would say full cost, I spent about $3,000 to get MadTown Maids up and running and taking cleans.
Do you remember who? Do you want to shout out anybody that you like bought coaching from, or any programs that you've used?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say the academy that I used at the time, it was called something different. It's now called Drop Service Academy. The coaches, John and Mark, there are awesome. They both are young guys who own remote home service businesses. They both own 2 different home service businesses. They run everything on Booking Koala and, use the same models. They actually, interestingly enough, both started in Miami, met each other one day, and they were like, oh, yeah, I own a cleaning business in Miami. And the guy's like, I own a cleaning business here in Miami. And they ended up befriending each other and deciding to start a joint business in Nashville together completely remotely. And then they were like, you know what? We've got something going here. We could teach people how to do what we did. And they started up a coaching program. And that's kind of how I met them and how I got involved with them. And I mean, they made the process for me super, super simple. So yeah, I definitely give a shout out to them. I think I still go to them every once in a while when I get a rare bid or something where I'm like, sheesh, how am I going to price this? Or, how should I handle this weird customer complaint? And they're always still very helpful now, even 6 months down the line. So yeah, huge shout out to them.
Being 6 months in, I mean, you're still dealing with daily struggles, I'm sure. What have been some of the biggest challenges you've faced so far in this business venture?
Yeah. So I would say biggest problems or challenges in this business venture are personnel management, because for me, it's a new world. I've been an entrepreneur for, call it 7 years now, but I've never really had staff. I've never really had people that were working under me or for me. I've always had partners, or maybe a VA, or maybe someone like that. That it's just very task oriented. There's not a whole lot of relationship, or we're like even people, and we're collaborating on something. So this for me has been interesting to deal with the hiring side, but then the relationship management side, and the fact that your service providers are people too. They've got their own families, their own car troubles, their own bad weather, their own getting sick, and having to walk a line between forgiveness and graciousness, but not jeopardizing your business. And that's
Right.
been a difficult path for me to tread. I've certainly had some moments where I've made decisions and I've been like, should have just cut him after strike two. Shouldn't have given him the third strike. Like that just it ends up being a lot more trouble than it's worth. So that's probably been my biggest obstacle. And then I would say just unplugging, and any entrepreneur knows this. I there are a lot of days where I work from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. I live with my fiance, and she's like, I didn't even see you at all yesterday. I just, didn't don't even know what you were doing or what happened or anything like that. So sometimes it's hard, especially if we go on 7, 8, 9, 10 days in a row. As an entrepreneur, there's always something to do. And sometimes you just have to say, that's enough work for today and walk away. And I'm still trying to teach myself that.
That is really big for sure. Knowing how to unplug and take time for yourself. I deal with extreme anxiety and been diagnosed with a panic disorder, so I know how being plugged in all the time can really take a toll on your body, your mentals, like everything, relationships, family, stuff like that. So that's one big thing. If I could give you some advice, is keep working on that, giving boundaries to things, know when to take that step back when you need to. Because if you don't, you kind of already said it. There will be times where you'll be second guessing, like maybe I was a little overworked at that point. I wasn't thinking, super clearly, gave them an extra chance, or maybe the opposite, the next time you could be a little more hair trigger and fire somebody for a, small thing that could have just been like a talking to.
Absolutely. And business is great and success is great and all that. But the other thing is there's more important things in life than, your business and how much money you're making and stuff like that. And sometimes I can end up putting loved ones and my health and things like that to the side out of pursuit of success. And it's just not the right way to go about life. At the end of the day, you work hard so that you have the means to enjoy the life that you want. And if you burn that life down in the process of getting the means, there's not really much reason to do that.
Absolutely. What, I guess then now prioritizing and managing your time, what is a average day look for you?
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, the prioritizing and getting it right is a work in progress still. So, I would say for me, I'm normally up around 5. I'll go to the gym first thing in the morning. I just like to get it done with. If I start working, I'm stuck in the vortex. I'll never get out. I'll never get to the gym, never get to a workout. So I try to just get up, go get that out of the way with first thing. So probably wrapped up back to my apartment, ready to start my day somewhere around 6:30. And then my fiance gets up, have a little morning coffee and chit chat with her, and send her off on whatever, if whether she's going into the office to work or working from home or whatever, because she works full time as a civil engineer. So she's a boss. And after have a little chit chat with her, probably around 7:30, I get on the computer. Mornings are normally all calls, normally a lot of strategy calls, working with my mentors, working with other people that are in the industry, whether it's just like collective intelligence type stuff and we're just sharing, bouncing ideas off of each other, or even people that I have worked with or offered guidance or mentorship to, following up with them. And then also setting everything up for the day for my business, making sure providers know where they need to be going, customers know that they're coming, all the, everything is just ready to run as smooth as possible throughout the day. Afternoon is normally content creation. I do create content for TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, or X now, YouTube. So I have a few hour block in my day that's normally dedicated towards content creation or working with any of my setters or closers or people like that are on the team that help with my content creation funnels. And then Late afternoon, early evening is normally following up with customers, checking in on how the day went, following up with cleaners, making sure everything went as we hoped, running billing for the day, making sure, especially my hourly customers, what are my timestamps looking like? What should they be paying? Getting all that stuff all situated, and then making sure that the schedule for tomorrow is aligned and arrival times are possible. And if any adjustments need to be made, they can be made. And then at some point during the evening, I decide to unplug and eat dinner and then hang out with my fiance and go to sleep. So it's a pretty computer call heavy day. And then sprinkled throughout there is, of course, the treacherousness of running a business and the fact of you could lose a whole 2 hours in the middle of the day with a couple customer problems or a cleaner issue or a lot of sales calls. I mean, today I told you before we jumped on, I've had like 7 sales calls already. It's 11 in the morning. So it's there's a lot of those unexpected stuff that always seems to eat up a couple hours of my day that there's no way to really plan for, or at least I haven't built the systems to plan for yet.
Do you have a point where you know you're going to start hiring either a VA or somebody else full time to just take over the calls where you're going to be focusing on marketing?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of cold outreach personally. I think that it's invaluable. We've closed 20, 25, $30,000 ARR deals just from cold outreach, just from ringing places and going and doing walkthroughs and having conversations. That being said, I would like to focus my time towards that, towards customer acquisition and marketing and organic lead generation strategies, and then start to hand over some of my admin tasks and fielding inbound sales calls to virtual assistants. Interestingly enough, at 3 p.m. today, I have an onboarding call with my first VA. So we've hit that threshold now. I wanted to wait until I got to the 15 to 20K a month kind of revenue range. And we kind of blew by it. Didn't really have a lot of time to implement it slowly. So we're just going to have to do it on the fly here. And I'm planning on spending at least the rest of April just training this person and getting them ready and getting them equipped with all my SOPs. And then hopefully come May 1, maybe May 7, something like that, they can start really taking over the reins and I can stop staring at my phone with my ear hyper trained for the ring and going and running and grabbing it all day long.
And MadTown is it's local, right? It's to Madison. Do you have any other locations, or are you? I guess that'd be a little ambitious to go into a second location within 6 months. But do you have plans on either another city in Wisconsin or out of state?
Yeah, so we actually have already opened business in a second city. Second county actually is how we've done it. We kind of did Dane County, which is where Madison is located, and now we've also opened Walworth County. In the process, we've kind of picked up a lot of jobs in between. So Dane County is here. It's rather large. It's more in the center of Wisconsin, let's say. Now Walworth County is down here low. It's a little bit south and east, about an hour and a half away. It's right next to the Illinois border, but we have in the process kind of picked up cleans in this entire strip, despite not really being a service area for us. As long as we have a provider that will take it, we'll of course, just offer them some compensation for the travel time and the gas or whatever, and then allow them to go and knock it out. But yeah, we have expanded to a second location. It probably accounts for less than 10% of our revenue currently. It's very small still. There's just a lot less demand as well. And our team is built accordingly. Down there, we've got 1, 2 providers that are working with us every week. In Dane County, we've got 10 plus. So it's reflective of the amount of business that we're doing there.
Going into leadership style, talk on that. What would you say yours is like, and if there's somebody that, I don't know, a famous person that you would kind of mirror it off of, who would you pick?
Yeah. I don't know that I have a particular person in mind for who I try to emulate. I think I was a big bookworm. Read a lot of mindset books and leadership books and just books about fine tuning yourself, sharpening yourself. And while I still have a lot to learn, especially on the leadership front, I think my leadership style is very hands on. I'm very much, I want to be in the trenches with you. I want to face the struggles with you and celebrate the wins with you. And if you're having problems, I want to be the first one to know. If you're having success, I want to be the first one to edify you. That's just how I am and how I operate, which is part of the reason why I have struggled with the idea of bringing on more people and expanding my team, because I like to be so hands-on. And when a customer calls, if we've worked with them at any time before, I'm picking up the phone. Hey, Karen, how you doing today? How's your son? I know things about my customers. I know things about my providers. I follow up closely with them. They know me. They work with us because they like the experience that they have. And I'm struggling with the thought of us losing that as a business, but I also understand eventually you run into you get pigeonholed when you won't grow your team. There's only so much that I can do on the day to day. So my leadership style, I would say, is very hands on. I'm very quick to call out BS when I see it, but I'm also very understanding if there's problems or there's things like that. And I also, in the same way that I say hands on, someone cancels a clean and it has to get done, I put my cleaning supplies in the trunk, put on my shirt and my pants, and I get in the car and I go clean. I've done dozens of cleans. If a customer calls and they say, hey, I really need a clean on Sunday, I'm so sorry. I know it's last minute. It's already Friday night. I really need it on Sunday. I'm moving out and I need this. They're going to pay the right now price. Like, I'm not a saint. I'm not going to say, oh, sure, yeah, I'll just come help you out because you need it. But I'll go and do it gladly. Put the stuff in the car and go get my hands dirty. I'm very much hands on. Or if a cleaner's at a job and they need to be done there at 1 p.m. and they call me at 11 and they're like, Parker, there's no way I'm going to be able to be done by 1 p.m. There's too much work to be done here. All right, I'll see you in a half hour and we'll get double the work done for the last hour and a half so you can leave on time and get to the next job.
Very nice. I'm surprised a little bit because I haven't heard many people who, will jump in and kind of still do that, when you're juggling so much, that's kind of the one thing that they're like, I'm going to not do that. Maybe not as much on helping one of your do you have independent contractors or employees? Yeah. So in your case, helping an independent contractor, the picking up last minute job at a higher price, that's also great. But if you can find one of your ICs to do it, you're going in and doing it, which is tremendous, honestly, because it shows that you can lock down that client, hopefully, if it's a one-time clean, and they'll remember like, hey, okay, this guy came in last minute. He's the owner, so I could trust that this company will take care of me.
Yep. And we get great reviews from those customers and great referrals and great tips. And, for me, I am not a half-assed person in any regard. If I am growing a business, I will do anything to grow that business, ethically, at least. I'm not going to steal from somebody else or whatever, but if we can add an extra $1,000 on the books for this month because I go and pick up one clean every Sunday that we don't have an IC that would fill, I'll do it in a heartbeat. Totally fine with me. No problem. And the other thing is, when I started this business, I mean, even now, I'm not someone who is above a good paying opportunity. I mean, when I was starting this business, when the phone wasn't ringing, I was driving DoorDash, right? I mean, I'm a hustler. I will do what I need to do to grow myself, grow my prospect of my future, grow my business, help provide for the people that I care about and myself. I mean, if there's work to be done and it can be done at a reasonable rate, I will do it. Same thing. I get customers all the time. They're like, "Hey, Parker, we just got this done. Whatever. I see on your website you do window washing. We're showing our house, let's say, on this Saturday, and they're calling me this on Thursday, right after we did a whole deep clean for them, so the house is spotless. Now they're like, well, we got an open house, but our realtor says we should get a window washers in here. We can't find anyone to do it. Sure, I'll grab my bucket and my squeegee and I'll get in the car and go wash the windows. I mean, I know how to do the stuff, and I'm going to make $100 an hour while I'm there. I am not at the point where I'm above $100 an hour. Maybe in the future I will be, but at this point, a good review, a good referral, and $100 an hour to go wash windows, sign me up, man.
Absolutely. I love that. I don't know how many people know this, but with booking Koala, we, the owners, kind of had an agreement that the growth of the company was first and foremost, right? We are actually not even the highest paid employees in the company. We take less so we can hire more people and expand quicker and give all you guys the features and functionality that you want. Because if we take all three of us, if we take an extra 2-3 grand, that is money that we could have hired 4, 5, 6 more people that could have now cut things down. I personally, if I want more money, I'm a Lyft driver. I still drive Lyft. I will go out, turn it on, and my wife works nights. So when I go and drop her off in the city here, right after I drop her off, I'll turn it on and I'll drive around for 2 hours. I don't really care. It's just things, you got to put priorities first. And when you set those and stick to them, you will be, I don't know how your happiness level might go up, but in the long run, you will look back and know that it wasn't a bad decision.
Yep. I always say that's fulfillment versus happiness, right? And you're not going to get to the end of that and be like, well, I wish I hadn't done that. It's not going to be easy along the way, but you will feel fulfilled by it. And yeah, I think a lot of people make a little bit of money, they start something, and they're like, okay, that is now beneath me.
Yeah.
No, that's not a thing. I mean, if it's not something that you want to do, that's okay. But that's a choice. It's not beneath you. And until you're like making multiple 7 figures, 8 figures type of person, then okay, sure. Yeah, answering a sales call is probably a little beneath you at that point. But
I wouldn't even say beneath you. It's just prioritizing your time elsewhere.
Yep.
Will yield more for you and whatever you're trying to accomplish. If you got nothing else going on that day and it's not like really work related, why the hell would you pass it on? Like, I get it. You may want to just not even deal with anything and turn your brain off that day. That's great. But somebody who kind of maybe does that all the time, I can't really connect with that. I
Agreed.
feel like me as a person, I will never be too big to do something.
And that is in my opinion, a huge indicator of success. It's just like like I said, I'll get in there and clean a toilet. If the toilet has to be cleaned and that's what's going to propel the growth of the business by a good review and a good referral and a happy provider and a happy customer. And it shows my contractors that I'm backing them, that I am, I'm standing alongside of them. There's no nonsense. That will forever be worth it to me. You're right. No matter what earning point you get to, no matter how big the business gets to, yes, at some point it's no longer probably worth your time. But if you also consider the ripple effect of it, that it's not just about the money that you make for the time that you spend, but it's about the way that decision impacts how customers think of you and how your providers think of you, how your colleagues think of you. I think it reflects really, really well on people that are willing to get their hands dirty.
Absolutely. Going into hiring, you mentioned you have contractors. How many do you have in total?
Yeah, so it fluctuates a little bit, as we're kind of in the infinite hiring loop. When you have contractors, people are always phasing in, and then maybe it's just not for them, or maybe they get a more full-time opportunity, or maybe, so I would say we normally fluctuate around 10 right now. But I would also say that to anyone who is like, oh, I want to start a business, well, to get to where you're at, you've got to have 5 of our contractors do about 95% of all of our cleans. So we could be operating at 95% capacity with half the team size that we have.
So you use them more as a backup, or just backups?
Yeah, and they all have full-time other jobs, and they say, hey, Parker, I have my supplies. I have everything I need. I'm available on the weekends, or I'm available before noon, or I'm available after 6 p.m. And then when I have customers that kind of fit into those time blocks and our more regular service providers aren't available, or they're already booked or whatever, then I'll just stick them in. And these people are just using it as a good way to make some extra money. And as long as they deliver on the service quality, I never have a problem.
Awesome. Where do you focus your hiring on? Like what platform?
I'll give out a little bit of game here. I almost have hired all of my service providers from Facebook groups.
Awesome.
It's really where we've found everyone other than one person. And that was through Indeed. And it was actually the very first person that we have ever hired. And shout out to her. She is amazing. She works 60 hours a week for us every single week. She is just like, give me every single job you can give me. And she will make probably close to $100,000 this year cleaning houses for us. So, she just busts her ass all day, every day, 6 days a week. And then she takes Sundays off and repeats. So, she's awesome. We found her through Indeed. Otherwise, almost everyone has been Facebook groups, and we really are just looking for highly reviewed independent cleaners. And when Kevin goes on Facebook and says, hey, my cleaner Stephanie is awesome. Stephanie doesn't work for a company. She doesn't have a business. She's just Stephanie, and she cleans houses. Those are the type of people we're normally targeting, because we're not trying to take away from what she's doing at all. As long as there's a fair compensation rate we can agree on for her that protects our margins enough, she's the perfect person. She already has a reputation. She already has all the supplies. She already has the means of transportation. She's used to the scopes of work. She's used to dealing with customers. We don't have to worry about training. We do a couple test cleans just to make sure that her standards are the same as ours, and then it's off to the races.
What would you say would be a red flag on an application if you saw it right away? You're just like, I'm not even calling this person.
For a job board, I always will put 3 or 4 really, really easy questions. Like, are you willing to travel to 100% of the jobs? Because obviously there's no work from home here. There's no office. And all you have to do is type the word yes in. Are you authorized to work in the US? Type the word yes in. If they won't answer those questions, it goes in the trash. Even if their resume is fantastic, even if they have cleaning experience, even if they have, if you can't spend 45 seconds and type yes 4 times, it goes in the trash. It just shows the priority level of the role that they're applying for. And that for me is probably the biggest one. And then the other big one is people who will put cleaning experience as any time in their life that they cleaned things. And they apply with 10 years of cleaning experience. And maybe 1 year of that or 2 years of that was in hospitality or, in working for a cleaning company. But 8 years of that was working at Taco Bell and mopping the floors every night after the close. Like, that's not cleaning experience. And
Yeah.
if they're trying to pass that off as cleaning experience, I'm not going to immediately trash the resume if they do have some good experience, but I'm definitely not going to send that person into someone else's home who's expecting a pristine deep clean when they've just mopped floors and bussed tables.
Makes sense. What about an ideal candidate? What does that look like?
Oh, geez.
Well, I guess you kind of already touched on that. Your first cleaner that you hired.
Yeah, I would say the ideal candidate is just someone who has worked independently before because they already are going to have all the supplies that they want. They're going to be familiar with how to interact with customers, and they have already been checking their own work for a long time. Sometimes we get people who come from other big cleaning companies and they never checked their own work. There was always like a shift leader or a group manager that, did the final walkthrough and made sure things were up to specs. Whereas, I just want someone that I know can not only turn out quality work, but double check the quality of their own work. Because a lot of the times they're going to be working independently.
Going towards the marketing side of things, besides the cold outreach that you love so much, what are you currently doing for marketing? If it's multiple things, give it to all of it, or what about just the top two also?
Yeah. So all the different avenues we currently use, obviously you have just your online presence that you build, whether that be through social media or local social medias like Nextdoor, Facebook groups, stuff like that. And then you've got your online presence from the SEO standpoint. Then you've got your online presence from the Google business profile standpoint. And then, of course, you have paid marketing, which for us, the paid marketing that we use is Google local service ads. We recently just started Thumbtack. I'm not going to co-sign Thumbtack yet because I haven't seen enough success to advise that to anyone. And then, of course, paper marketing material. We do door hangers, we do flyers, business cards, stuff like that. But those are really our main avenues.
What would you say is the number one avenue that's bringing in the most?
Yeah. On the commercial side, it's cold outreach. No conversation about it. And then on the residential side, it's the online presence of referrals and Google business profile and Nextdoor, Facebook groups, stuff like that. There's just the buzz about the business. And then Google LSA. It just works so well in our area. I almost hate to say it because I feel like it's becoming a little bit of a taboo in the home service industry because they're just jacking the prices on everybody. But it is just it's a money printer for us. I can't even explain it. I mean, if I could pay $100,000 to Google LSA every month for the appropriate amount of leads, I would do it. I mean, we're closing 85% rate for Google LSA leads. Average lead cost is about $31 per lead in our area. And our average booking size is $250 at a 50% margin. And it's just it's such a no-brainer. I can't speak highly enough of it, but I always hesitate to edify it too much because some people have the exact opposite experience and they're in LA paying $100 per lead and the competition out there is undercutting them on price, so they're never even getting bookings, and they get swallowed up with $1,000 of LSA charges in 4 days and zero bookings to show for it. So it's definitely a bit of a hit or miss situation.
What does competition look like in where you're at in Madison?
There's probably 3 or 4 businesses that are extremely established, very big, very successful, been around for 10, 15 plus years, hundreds of 5-star reviews. Then there's very few businesses at our size, which I think has been a huge perk for us. Is there's very few businesses that are not big, but they're not Claudia's cleaning company. And it's Claudia and 2 people, and they're just a team of 3, and they don't really do any fancy advertising, and they don't really, care about their online presence. They're basically all word of mouth, and, they're owner operators, and they're doing all the work themselves. Like, there's a lot of those businesses. And then there's the 4, probably, I'd say like 4 or 5, like really big, really established businesses. But the thing is, these ones here, most people don't find. And these ones here, people can't get on their schedule because they either won't take a one-time clean, or they won't take a job as small as that one, or they don't have any availability for the next 3 weeks, or, and that's that gap that we have been filling really well, of like customers that are just like, I can't wait 3 weeks for this service, or I don't need a recurring service, or I only have a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment, and those big companies are just not taking them. And these people are never even finding the small companies.
Are there any bigger franchises over there?
Yeah, I think we have Molly Maids and Mary Maids, and I think those are the 2 ones that I see. And then, yeah, I think those are the 2 ones that we see here. But it seems like they have a different clientele in my experience. It does feel like they're going for a different group of people, the group of people that just like wants literally in and out, cheap as it comes, hit all the surfaces with a rag, run the mop and the vacuum, leave type of cleaning. And that's just not the type of cleaning that we do.
It seems like a lot of those businesses that are run with Booking Koala are exactly like you said, not the in and out. Everybody really cares and wants to take care of their customer. I feel like when you're bigger or in the franchise space like that, you have enough money clearly to get the franchise name, so you can kind of spend money on acquiring a customer for as cheap as possible, which in turn gets you those iffy bookings, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I still get a bunch of those people, and I don't, just because I don't want to be a jackass, but I almost tell them to just call Molly Maids and stop calling around. The LSA ad rings, and it's someone, and they're like, they want their 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,200 square foot house cleaned. And I give them a quote. Let's call it $200 for a basic cleaning, for a one-time service. And they're like expecting like a double-digit number. They're like, oh, I thought it was going to be $75. My budget is $90 for this. I'm just like, just go call the giant franchise company, and they will send a team of 5 people that will be in and out of your home in 13 minutes, and everything will be touched, but that's the clean you're going to get. And that's what they're looking for, which is fine. There's no wrong customer. It's the wrong customer for my business. And I just get frustrated sometimes answering those phones and fielding those calls. And I take them through the entire process and all this stuff. And then I give them the price, and they're just like, okay, yeah, I'll call you back. You're not going to call me back.
And that's fine. You don't want them to.
Agreed. Yes.
With your marketing style and what you look at in terms of data, what are the main points that you look for? And I guess, how are you leveraging the data into your decision making? Like, how quickly are you making changes once you get the data?
Yeah. Thankfully, thus far, it's been pretty much like this for us. So we haven't had to do a lot of changing. A lot of the fabric of what we started with from the very beginning has transcended really well as we've grown. We've kind of been built to scale, if that makes sense. And again, huge shout out and thank you to my mentors, because I would not have set things up this way if I didn't have their help. But that being said, I think the biggest thing has been our key metric is phone calls. It's how many people can we get on the phone? Because I know that I can close consistently above 75%. So if I can consistently close above 75%, get me on the phone with as many people as possible. So all of the marketing is tailored towards pick up the phone and call. And the beautiful thing about our model and the way I've built our business is I will never alienate a customer because of their budget. The only thing that I will do is I will offer them the service that they can get for that budget. So I am very much in the business of customizing packages and customizing services and giving the customer what they want. So even if I get on the phone with Susan and Susan wants a clean that costs $200 because that's the size of her home, and she says, "Oh no, I can't. I'm not interested." My follow up is, "Well, Susan, what were you looking to spend on this clean?" "Oh, I was looking to spend 125." Well, what we can do for 125 is I can send a cleaner there. They'll be there for about 2.5 hours, and you can just make a list of what is most important to you, and then we'll just tackle that list in that order that you provided us with. So if the bathrooms are the most important, and then the kitchen would be next, and then the living room, and then the bedrooms, maybe we're not going to get to the bedroom and you're going to have to dust and run a vacuum in the bedroom, but the stuff that you really didn't want to clean, you got done and we stayed within your budget. And a lot of customers will close there. So I'll always take them through the normal process, try to close them. And then if they don't, if they're not going to bite at that, try to build something for them in the package of what they're looking for. Just like you weren't really listening, but the call before we started the podcast, that customer called, told me the space. I said, it's 150. And she said, that's too much. I said, well, we could do $50 an hour. And in 2 hours, I think we could get through most of your space. And then you just pay the 2 hours and we'll just do it in the order you want it done. So now she just called back. She's booking the 2 hour clean, $100, and we'll send some service providers over there. They'll knock that out and we'll get business from her, despite the fact that she gave an objection for the original service. So for me, everything is calls, calls, calls. Get them on the phone because we have the flexibility. We have the short-term scheduling availability. We have the this and that will allow us to close the vast majority of our bookings. That being said, biggest adjustments we have made, we have like 10x our LSA budget since we started, because again, it continues to deliver. I want as many calls as you can possibly give me, so I will make the budget as big as I can make it. Other things that we've done is a little pro tip. We have started advertising with numerous platforms immediately after maybe a day or two, let's say, canceled said advertising. And then most of these ad platforms will give you a really sweet deal to come back. And we have done this with Yelp. We've done this with Thumbtack. We have looked at doing it with Nextdoor ads, like all of these places where like you start and maybe you got to pay $40 for that first couple days, get some leads. They're not great. It's definitely not worth $40. Okay, no worries. You cancel it. And then Yelp's going to come to you and say, here's $500 of free advertising credit. We want you back on the platform. For free? Sure, I'll advertise on Yelp for free. So we've done a lot of stuff like that. And then interestingly, something we've just started, and so I can't give a lot of empirical data to back it, but we are attacking next door influencers. The people in your next door community who they post, and other people just seem to care what they have to say. And if you go scroll through your next door, there's people that when they post, people comment, people like, people react, people engage with what they're posting on next door because maybe they're very active or maybe they're a community figure or whatever that looks like. For example, there's someone in Madison in our area that has just garnered this really almost cult-like following of people. When he posts on Nextdoor, he gets a ton of engagement. And so we reached out to him and we said, hey, we want to offer you a discounted clean, like super discounted, basically at cost for your home in response for, or in exchange for an honest review of our services. And he was like, okay. And he actually said, I don't really need it, but can I find someone else in the community who's in need of something like that? And you guys do it for them? We said, sure. We set it up with them, did a 4-hour service for them at like $30 an hour, like gave them a super, super steal, still covered our costs. So it was free for us to do it. And she gave us a 5-star review, told the guy that we were looking at getting this cross promotion with. They did a great job. They were so friendly, this, that. Now he's posting actually today in Nextdoor this big post about how great our company is and what my background is and where I'm from and how we're a small locally owned business. And, we gave him a coupon code with his name to share out with everybody to use on our website as they book. So we've been attacking Nextdoor influencers because a lot of these people don't actually really expect much in return. Just a good service rate is probably enough. Whereas like you go try to find an Instagram influencer or like a real influencer, you got to pay. There's all these hoops to jump through. They want XYZ. You go find an adult, an older person in your community who could use a clean and will say something nice about you. You could probably charge them your cost and get a really good testimonial from a third party to endorse you and drum up a good amount of business from it.
That's the first I've heard of somebody utilizing Nextdoor in that capacity, and it honestly sounds like a genius way to do it. Move away from Instagram and those, because it could be, I'm sure, it's a little oversaturated in some areas or markets or whatnot, industries. Maybe not this. I honestly haven't really seen anybody use an influencer on Instagram for this type of service space, and I honestly wouldn't really expect it to work in that way. But utilizing Nextdoor in that capacity sounds like a genius way, and I honestly think that might be one of the next bigger moves for the industry in terms of marketing.
Yep. And you can apply the same thing to Facebook groups.
Yep.
Go find the person in Moms of Madison group who's just got everyone's attention. Reach out to her, offer her to give her a deep clean at a super cheap rate, just basically give it to her at cost. What do you have to lose? Your worst case scenario here is she doesn't like the service, and I guess she tells people that you did a bad job. Probably not going to happen if you're offering her a huge discount and you're attentive and things like that. And your best case scenario is she gives you a 5-star review. She tells her real life friends and people that she knows. Maybe she even starts a service with you or actually uses you in the future. And she lets a whole group of people that know that she doesn't own the company. She wasn't paid to endorse you. She wasn't anything of the sort. So that's a real genuine review, referral, endorsement that I think could be very valuable. So we're really leaning into that right now, and we'll be sure to report back and let you guys know how that went, because I am very hopeful, like very, very hopeful that will drum up at least a few leads. And for free organic marketing, you can't ask for much more than a few good leads.
Absolutely not. Going towards The big questions here, everybody really wants to know the money, right?
Mhm.
The numbers. How much revenue did you do in that? I get because you said for your first booking was November 20th, right? Like right around Thanksgiving, right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we had like four cleans in November, something like that, because we were just getting started. We had one service provider. We didn't have ads running, anything like that.
So for the final month, that last month of December, what were your numbers, if any? Did you have any?
Yeah. For December, then the last month of 2023, we did $9,000 in revenue.
So you did 10K basically your first month.
Yeah, we did 10K our second month, 9K our first month. Yep.
Wow. And then to date from November, how much have you done in total?
To date, where we stand right now, we have done just under 70K in revenue.
Wow. Good stuff. And then what about for this full year, January to December?
Um, well, I guess,
Ballpark.
yeah, it would just be 74. Oh, wait. So you're saying for 2024 forecasting it?
Yeah. What do you have? Because I
Yeah.
know in the software you could already see what's set for recurring.
Mhm.
And then you could ballpark what your one times will be.
Yeah, I would say, well, this month we expect to do 25K for April. We've already done over 10 so far in the first 12 days, and we have a $5,000 day on Monday. So we've got that, and we have two contracts for August right now. One of them is 21,000, the other one is 29,000. So we'll do $50,000 in cleans in 2 weeks in August. So
Those
factor
commercial.
one is commercial and one is construction.
Okay.
And so factoring that in, assuming we don't really grow, let's say we just stay at 25K for the rest of the year, plus, some of these extra big stuff, that would put us at probably doing somewhere just shy of like 300K for this year.
Those are great numbers for sure. And I'll be honest, for where you're at, where you're located, that's even more impressive. Not being in, the major cities, LA, Dallas, Chicago, New York, but Madison, Wisconsin, and the one surrounding county there, those are fantastic, fantastic numbers for the first year.
Yeah, and I would say those are very conservative. I would be surprised if we didn't do 500,000. I'm hell bent on growing this business at this point. So, those two contracts that were 50K total, I will get at least two more of those. So that's another 50K on top, and we're gonna make stuff happen. We really have barely even expanded in the commercial sector. We have two apartment complexes. That's it. And then, some smaller stuff, but yeah, we have barely even tapped into that world, and we've already done this. My objective is to be doing 50K a month by Q4. So, if we hit there, we'll do 500,000 this year, and maybe I'm being a little bit optimistic, but I said we were going to hit 10K month 2, and people told me I was being optimistic there, and I damn near did it month 1. So, that's what I think we're doing. And I would say, as a quick, not rebuttal, but as a countering opinion to what you said there, I think people grossly sleep on mid-major cities for service businesses.
I
Because
agree. No, I agree, and that's why I'm slightly shocked, but at the same time I'm not, because like you said, there's what, three other cleaning services that are like yours, where it's not the couple of the big franchises, and then it's not the several or dozen of the solo cleaner with
yep,
their family member or a friend.
yep.
So
And I mean, Madison and the surrounding area probably has around 400,000 people, let's say. which is really not big, but the other thing that we have in Madison is decent income, pretty low cost of living, relatively large homes in general.
The college.
Then you have a lot of student living. You have a lot of young adult apartment living. And you also have a lot of people that have like Airbnbs, rentals, seasonal homes. Like there's a lot of different markets to tap into here, despite the fact that it's not a large city, but there's also not the competition of a large city. So I've been very pleasantly surprised. Plus, want to look at advertising? I mean, go to LA, you're going to pay $80 for an LSA lead. You go to New York City, you're going to pay $70 for an LSA lead. Miami, $50, $60 for an LSA lead. I'm paying $30. I get 3 leads for the same advertising spend. It's just different. And you also consider in those areas, there's just more and more people who are cleaning for cheap. There's more and more people that are cleaning for $20 an hour, $30 an hour. And you're not going to beat those prices as a business owner. You won't. You can't. If you have any overhead, you can't. These are people who have a phone number, a Facebook account, a bucket, a mop, a vacuum, and a rag. And that's all they need. That's all they have. They don't have insurance. They don't have an LLC. They don't have a CRM. They don't have advertising spend. You're not going to beat those people. So, being in an area where there just aren't that many of those people, at least that many of those people whose names are really circulating.
And this is also not to say not every non-major city is going to work like this, right? Because if you go, my sister lives in northern Wisconsin, up in Minocqua.
Okay, yeah.
You're not going to get that there.
No.
It's too small.
Too small.
Way too small. And if you decided to expand, let's say Minocqua down to Wausau, that's a little bit more of a drive, or even more, go down to Stevens Point up to Minocqua. Well, you would have to have cleaners strategically living closer to those areas and only doing that, and that's more, not to say that you can't do it. It just takes more time to set it up that way. And it's going to take longer to get those recurring bookings to make it worthwhile for those cleaners.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the catch-22 of like, especially if you're doing the independent contractor model of like, well, you need cleaners to get customers fulfilled, but you need customers to
get cleaners
busy and paid.
Yeah.
So there always is that catch-22. We've run into that same problem with our second location. It's like we could hire a couple extra cleaners and then maybe ramp up the marketing down there. But if we hire cleaners and then we try to ramp up the marketing, but they don't come in time, and then the cleaners are quitting because they're not getting any work, it's like you're always going to either have too much work or too many cleaners, too much work, too many cleaners, and you just kind of try to ride that wave. And that's why I love people that have their own book of business, because they're not looking at me saying, hey, Parker, I don't have any work this week. How am I supposed to pay my bills? No, they've got their own book of business that pays their bills, and we're the cherry on top when we come and have more to offer them. And if they don't want it, they don't want it. And that's totally fine. But I actually recently, our most recent hire, we just hired an entire smaller company. We found a small, like I said, mom and pop type of cleaning company, just a team of 3 people. They don't advertise. They don't even have a website. They don't have anything. We just found a recommendation for them on Facebook. And I called them up and I said, hey, I own a cleaning business in your area. I actually have too much work to fulfill all of it. Would you like me to put some of that work on your schedule? And they were like, of course, we'd like you to put work on our schedule. Okay, well, what's a fair compensation rate for you for that work? We agreed on some terms, whether it be a revenue share or whether it be an hourly rate or whatever that looks like. And now whenever I have extra jobs, I just push them out to them in a group chat with 2 of the 5 of them. And I say, these are the jobs, these are the dates, these are the times, these are the scopes of work. This is what I can pay you. And they say, yes, yes, no, yes, no. And I say, okay. And I put the 3 of them on their calendar, and Then I find the other two somewhere else. And it works perfect. Because if I don't have a clean for them for 3 weeks, they don't care. They have their own book of business.
Seems like that approach is working for you. Some might look at that and be like, that's too manual for me. But you also got to take into account, what are you willing to do, right? How do you want to run the business? I'm sure once you grow to a point where you're not handling this stuff day to day, you're just focusing on marketing, you can stop doing that. And you will have the recurring commercial side, the recurring residential side, and you don't have to worry. But this just shows that you're going extra lengths to make sure you get revenue and customers happy, and in return, those reviews for your business so you could keep expanding.
Exactly. Yep. At this point, like I said, we're in growth at all costs phase. Like if it takes me a little more time, a little more energy to get something exactly how I want it, that's fine. I'm not afraid of work. For me, I just don't want to leave opportunity on the table. And who knows, maybe down the line, I'll just fully absorb their whole company. And if I can offer them the right hourly rate and the right whatever, I could just absorb them all together. And maybe that's the down the line. If they do well enough over a time period and I don't want to go back and forth with them anymore, then maybe we take it that way. But for me, there's never going to be this solution is perfect. It has no headaches. It leaves no money on the table. Everything is flawless. You're dreaming, right? It's just, you have to decide, do I want the solution that is easier, but maybe leaves some opportunity on the table? Or do I want the solution that is harder and is going to cost more of my time and energy, but is going to be able to make use of more of the potential opportunity? And I'm going to take option 2, at least for the time being.
It's also situationally based, right? You're young, you don't have kids, you're gonna be getting married, your fiance works at home, so you kind of spend time there too. So you're able to kind of take more of the workload on early and do what needs to be done so you could grow, because when the time comes where you start needing to take steps back, well, you'll already be in a position that you have hired others to take on that busy stuff that you don't necessarily want to do anymore. You have done it, so it's not like you can't do it. It's just now other priorities are in place and time needs to be going there.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I couldn't have said that better. There's definitely, everything is going to be situational. And for me, my situation is I've got nothing but time and energy, and I might as well put it all towards growing something here. And one thing I actually wanted to touch on, because I had a little bit of a question for you. Do you have any experience with people talking about selling their home services businesses?
In which aspect? Like coming to me personally and wanting, or just knowing in the space of them selling?
Yeah, more the second one, or you've interviewed people and they've been like, "Hey, I'm building this to sell it." Because I actually, interestingly enough, got approached by a cash buyer, someone in the area who actually wants to buy my business from me. And it's something I wasn't even on my radar when I started it. It was always build to cash flow, build to cash flow. And now that I've started to do some research into it, I've found it seems like you can get about a 2x EBITDA for this type of business, in which case for me, it really does start to beg the question of like, is the cash flow worth it? Is it better to try and grow it? Is it better to just go all in, let's say for the first year, and then just exit for the highest dollar amount that you can, and then, leave it behind and start something new? Or better yet, start the same business in a different city? I mean, I don't know if this is a conversation you've had before, but it's something I have started to try to wrap my mind around here.
Again, going back to situationally based, that's another example. If you need the money and you have another opportunity in another space that requires that capital, then I would say, okay, go ahead and look at selling. And if the numbers are right and you want to, do it and then pursue the other. But if you don't need the money and you don't have another opportunity lined up elsewhere, and you're potentially just going to sell this to start a new one elsewhere, well, I would say keep going because you're already where you need to be. What you learn here can be transformed into another market elsewhere in the country, but it might not necessarily be exactly the same. So it could be harder or it could be easier, right? If you get to a point where you hired out everything, you got VAs to handle customer service, separate VAs to handle sales and marketing, and you're kind of just doing a weekly check-in for an hour, or maybe an hour a day or 30 minutes a day, whatever, however you want, and you have recurring revenue on repeat, take that money and now go start something else. That's the conversation I've been having a lot more with people, is like, they started this to get some financial freedom. Maybe it started off as just a little extra income from their 9 to 5. Then they realize, wow, I can actually make more money very quickly than my 9 to 5. So they get to that point, then they drop their 9 to 5. And then some stay and want to be the GMs and kind of handle the things out and not hire, so that they maximize those profits for themselves. And then others go, you know what? I never thought about starting another business, but now that I've learned all these skills in customer service, in sales, in marketing, in running a business, well, I'm well-rounded now where I could start elsewhere. I could still have this company bringing in the money, and now I can focus my time over here and start another thing. So again, situationally based.
Yeah. I think I found it's easy to get distracted, obviously, when you start looking at big numbers. And, when I was having a conversation and an investor was looking at me saying I could get $250,000 for my business as it stands right now, $250,000 on the table. When you start thinking about it like that, a business I started with $3,000 6 months ago, and you look at it like that, it's like, I mean,
I'll be honest. If somebody offered you $250,000 right now, I would honestly be tempted to take it, just because that sounds a little too good to be true. For the numbers and how new it is.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is obviously there would need to be an in-depth financial audit and all this stuff. This isn't the type of thing where he's like, oh, you want it? Here's the check. It's done. It's yours. But I mean, essentially the breakout that he gave me is, he said he's willing to pay 2x EBITDA, which would, you could roughly ballpark that right now. We're going to be doing probably 12 to 13K in profit this month. So if you did 2x of that, you're looking at like almost 300K for 2x of that over the year. So that would be, that's kind of where he pulled his number from. And I'm sure we'd probably have to show another 2 months of consistency at this level, right? And make sure that this wasn't just a one-off type of thing. But, but then on the other side of that, I hear that number and I think, well, why not grow this for 6 more months and try to sell it for double that or triple that? If that's how the value is found, then why couldn't we triple the revenue over the next 9 months and then sell from there? So, it's something that I have been kind of toiling with in my mind and trying to think, does this actually make sense, or is it the big price tag that just gets you excited? Or, what would it look like? Because that number is pulled from, if I just held the business for 2 years, I would make that same amount of money in profit. So, and that'd be with no growth. So then maybe if you expand your time horizon, you're like, it's probably is worth it to hold on to it. But who knows? Yeah, that's super situational. I didn't mean to divert us too much there, but
No, it's good because I'm sure that that's a question that others have that have never gotten the chance to ask. So again, super situationally based, right? Um, and another quick thing on that is if you did end up selling, would he or she make you sign a non-compete in the same area? Would you not be able to start another cleaning service in Madison for, let's say, 2 years?
yeah, it would. But thankfully, I'm not tied to this area at all. In fact, this business is probably the deepest roots that I have to Madison. Um, so if I were to sell it, I could easily pick up and move somewhere new. Now, whether that somewhere new would be an ideal market to start a new home service business or whatnot is a totally different conversation. But yeah, I'm 99% sure that it would be yeah, you can't start this same business in the same area after you sell yours to me.
If you ever thought about doing, you know, becoming a mentor, right? And that's the route you wanted to go, like help other people. That would be a great stepping stone. Be like, I started and in under a year, in 6 months, I went from nothing to starting, scaling, and selling a cleaning service in 6 months
Yeah.
for $250,000.
Yeah.
And then that is a tag that people will be like, wow, I want to learn from this guy, you know? So it's
Yeah.
another avenue.
And I actually have, that's already on my horizon for a step into that space. I want to learn more about the space before I become like a full-fledged, I could teach you everything you need to know, because I don't know everything yet. So I got some more learning to do before I take that full step. I've actually been fortunate enough to work alongside of my mentors, helping to mentor some other newer business owners to get my feet wet in the mentorship space, and also just helping them create content and create guides and create invoice templates and quoting templates and marketing email structures and all that different types of stuff for their mentorship platform. So definitely that's something I could see on the horizon as well. And wouldn't that be just like an awesome case study of like, yeah, I joined in, no experience, never done a home service business model before, started up, scaled, made $50,000 in profit over my first 6 months, and then exited at $250,000. And in 6 months, made 300K net and walked away. I mean, that would be quite the story. So we'll see. Maybe we do get to that point. Plus, I keep thinking about I'm getting married this summer, and I'm like, oh, that month is just going to be brutal. We're doing a destination wedding, and then we're coming back and we're having a reception in Chicago. And then, we have all these moving pieces and all this stuff. I'm like trying to juggle my business from across the world and trying to, make sure everything goes smoothly there. And my wedding is actually smack dab in the middle of our $30,000 construction job. So I will be across the world while my team is trying to execute with no me hands on deck, a $30,000 construction job. So that's going to be the stress of that. I'm already sweating just talking about it right now.
Well, congratulations. I know that feeling. I got married 6 months ago, so the last 2 months leading up, especially that last 30 days before is huge. And destination on top of it, you guys, it's going to be beautiful. I know it'll be great. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So just try and get the VA or a couple VAs perfect
Yeah.
before you kind of go out. And I that would be my biggest, I guess, tip for you for that situation is get a VA or two kind of ready to go 100% before, and things will be a lot smoother, because if not, it'll get tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. We're going to have to be there. And thankfully, I've still got 3 months now to like at least get one really, really strong one, and then probably have another one that is
A
good.
helper.
Maybe, yeah, not as great as the first one, but still can help with some of the smaller tasks and keeping the ship afloat while I'm gone. So
For sure.
yeah, definitely there's going to be some challenge there, but excited for it, looking forward to it. Gonna face it head on. It's the only way to go about it.
Absolutely. Definitely a big moment in your life, and something that you're going to always look back on and enjoy. Um, Going a little bit now towards the software side of things and how this got to where it's at. How big a role is tech? Does it play in your business?
I mean, I would say for me, there's four tools that are in my entire business. I mean, it sounds funny to even say it, but I use OpenPhone, which is a virtually hosted phone platform, a VoIP, and that allows me to text and call and have a separate voicemail and separate automations and hours and all this stuff, all virtually through my exact same phone that I'm going to have on me all the time. So that is absolutely instrumental. Second thing would be Booking Koala. I mean, that's where we keep everything organized. That's where all of our customer information is. That's how everything is kept up to speed with all of our providers. It's how we do all of our invoicing and our quoting and our bookings and adjustments. And that's even where I go to for pricing. I mean, when a customer calls me and they want a quote, I pull up Booking Koala and I go to add booking and I punch in the information. Oh, you want 2,500 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, this type of clean, this add-on. And then Booking Koala says, that's $319. And I say it's $319. Like, that's where I even get my pricing from. Now, obviously I built that pricing, but
Sure.
that's the tool I use on the day to day. Now, one thing I haven't tapped into enough yet, and it's something I'm going to do this month, is the actual campaigns feature on Booking Koala. Haven't used it once. I think I have the Explorer package, that $57 one. So I haven't tapped into those premium features yet, but that's something I really want to start because I do see the value in email campaigns and follow up and stuff like that, and getting that stuff going. And then third tech tool would be Stripe. I hate Stripe, but I just have to love Stripe. It's one of those things because that's how I make my money, but then they just never seem to make it easy. So Stripe, of course. And then the fourth tool that I use is actually a tool called SMS Savant. It's an AI chatbot tool where you can actually program custom text campaigns, and then you just import all of your leads, all of your phone numbers, and then you can import like information about the services that they got, their name, their service area, whatever, and then you can bunch them and say, okay, I want to start a custom text campaign that offers a 15% off discount to all of our old one-time customers to come back and get another one-time clean. And this thing will not only push out all of the first texts, but will also automatically engage in conversation with anyone who responds to the text and get them to a close. They'll be like, oh, okay, I want to learn, can you schedule me for next week, or what would the cost be, or whatever. And this thing has all of our pricing information built in, all of their customer profile built in, our scheduling, all that. And it will say, yes, this is the price, this is whatever. And they say, okay, I want to book. And then it pings me a notification and says, call this number. Here's a transcript of the text. Call them and close them. And then I just call them and close them. So that tool, SMS Savant, which actually I have been using since the beta, like since it wasn't even available to the public, because I know the developer of it. And I've been using that tool, and then Booking Koala, I'd say either at least organizes and generates a huge percentage of my business. Like we couldn't exist without those things. It would just be impossible to stay on top of everything if we didn't have those two tools.
Wonderful. And I'm assuming you started Booking Koala with your business, right?
Yep.
And I would say what drew you into using it, but was it your mentors? Because your mentors use us. Were they the ones that were like, get on this?
No, yeah, it was like non-negotiable. It was like Booking Koala is where you want to be. That's where you want to go. This is the package you want to get. This is how you get started. Actually, I even cloned their CRM. So I just cloned theirs and then built mine kind of off of that. So it was sign up. Here's the link. Here's what we do, and then send this email. You get your clone back, build out your pricing, and you're ready to roll. So yeah, that was kind of how I got not forced into it, but they were like, if you want this to be as streamlined as possible, you do this and you're up and running in a couple hours. Versus if you go find someone else, you got to build it all yourself, find your own integrations, find your own everything, because we don't use that.
Couple last questions here. What's one feature you couldn't live without?
It's such a small one, but I use it all the time. The duplicate booking feature in the actual booking details. I have a ton of Airbnb hosts where they're not on a recurring schedule. They kind of just need it when they need it. Maybe they have multiple units, all this stuff. And I just, beginning of every month, I go and I see, okay, this customer has to have this service date, this service done on these 5 dates. Go find when we did that service the last month before, duplicate it, pop in the date, pop, boom, done. Next property, same thing, duplicate, pop in the date, pop. And I can build a whole schedule of 17 bookings for 3 different customers in 15 minutes by just copy pasting all of the bookings, changing the dates, and I'm done. So that would be a tiny feature that I would say I can't live without. And then the other feature that I love, that's a huge feature, but is just something that has just worked so well, is the lead form. When they do the contact us and then they just fill out their information and I get the ping on my phone and it says, you have a new lead, and I click and I got the phone number and I read the description, click call. I'm on the phone with them 15 seconds after they submitted the lead. And they're like, oh my God. Like, I'm like, oh, this is Parker with MadTown Maids. I'm just following up on your service request. And they're like, I didn't even, I haven't even like closed my browser yet. Like, I literally just put that in there. And that will almost always close those people because they're just like so astounded by the customer service and the way that you get back to them so quickly. That feature, I think we've had like 20 leads, let's say, come in through there, and we've closed like 19 of them, which has been awesome.
Love to hear it. And then final question, your 10-year-old self, what advice are you giving them and on those experiences that you've had so far?
To put it simply, don't take so much advice from other people. Just do it. Everyone is going to tell you that it's not that easy. It's not that simple. You're not going to be able to do that. It doesn't work like that. It does. It does work like that. If you are willing to do what it takes to achieve something, you can achieve it. And there's been so many people in my life and in the lives of people that I care about, people that I know, people that I've worked with, where they just have a lot of people around them who have limiting beliefs, and it's like a disease. I mean, it's infectious being around people that tell you you can't just be a pro soccer player. Like, it's not that simple. Do you know how hard that is? That doesn't happen. Everyone wants to do that. You're not going to be You can. You can. It takes a certain level of sacrifice, a certain level of discipline, a certain level of luck, even. That's not to say that every single goal you ever set out to achieve, you will. But if you listen to a lot of people, most people don't have a whole lot going for them. And their limiting beliefs are going to infect you if you let them. And don't let them.
Absolutely. Everybody's got an opinion, and the ones who are strongest with their nose are seem to always be very unhappy in their situations. So definitely great advice. Parker, thank you for your time and sharing your story with us, and you know, giving insight into what it's like to run a service business in an area that's honestly not everyone's first, second, or third choice. You know, it's great to have that perspective.
Hey, I really appreciate your time today. I had a great time. I think it was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to following up with you, continuing to stay in touch as we hit or don't hit these goals and expectations we've talked about today. And maybe we come back on after I sell this business in 3 months, and we talk about what that process looks like and how that went, and what I would recommend or not recommend. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I appreciate it, man. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.